Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome to the Mo Show podcast, episode 45. Definitely the biggest grin on my face before I have started any podcast, and that's because it gives me great pleasure to introduce someone who I don't think I'm worthy of hosting, but let's see if that changes. His Excellency, the British Consul General, Mr. Seif Usher.
Mo, thanks very much. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule and coming into the studio. We met about a month ago, I think just before F1 at a F1 gala event dinner. And I was fortunate enough to share the stage with you and ask you a few questions. And you were very gracious in my request at the time when I asked that you come on the show. And when I did follow up with you, you said when and where. So for that, I'm very grateful.
Absolute delight. Really very, very happy to be with you, mate.
Thank you so much. How's your time been so far in Jeddah? I believe it's been 3 years you mentioned you've been here?
Yeah, I arrived in the summer of 2018. And so from then until now, I suppose life divides up between before COVID and where we are today. It's been such a tale of two halves almost. We've had 18 months or so of living with COVID and the time before that. So, but throughout, it's genuinely, I'm a diplomat, so I'm always going to say nice things, but, of all the jobs I've done around the world, serving in different countries, being in Jeddah and being in Saudi Arabia has just been a terrific experience, thrilling really from when I first arrived until today.
And of course, you're no stranger to the region. You've done a few tours in the MENA/Arab world.
I have, yeah. I've been fortunate enough to spend a good few years in the Middle East. So I've done a couple of tours in Khartoum. I've served in Iraq, in Syria, in Jordan. And so as if I was just kind of working my way around to finally get to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. We're very lucky to have you. I wanted to ask, I don't know much about what it entails to be a consul, and I think a lot of my viewers would be interested to know what a typical day in the life of an ambassador or a consul general is. So can you touch on what would be, your typical, let's say, Sunday, which is the beginning of our week, and how that would look like?
Sure. Perhaps if I explain what a consulate does. So, our main embassy sits in the Riyadh, where our ambassador is based. Here in Jeddah, we're a consulate, so we're in the second city. And really what we focus on is, in Jeddah, probably two main areas. One is trade and investment, which basically means helping British companies trade in Saudi Arabia, and then working with Saudi entities looking to invest in the United Kingdom. Then the other half of what we do is really taking care of British nationals. So for us, which is primarily pilgrims, of course, coming to the holy places.
So every day is pretty much similar to the next. It's like a business continuity thing more than any surprises.
I think in terms of the big picture, in what we're trying to achieve, perhaps yes. But within that, there's a great range of activity which me and the team in the consulate are involved in. We're not a huge diplomatic mission, so we have 2 or 3 British staff, and then 35 to 40 locally employed country-based staff of different nationality. So quite a diverse group of people working on lots of details. So our trade teams might be helping a creative company or an IT company or a transport company. Our consular team can be helping a British national with some difficulties about a document, or British nationals facing other types of problems. Mm-hmm. So really, it can be something different every day, actually, because ultimately what we're dealing with is people on the ground. And so there's always a diversity of opportunity for sure.
Yeah. Is it demanding, your job? Are you in the office for a lot of hours per day? Do you look forward to your holidays? How demanding or stress level? What are your stress levels like, Your Excellency?
I'm a pretty relaxed guy most of the time, I think. A few grey hairs are appearing now. But, diplomats are not going to be at the top of people's lists for doing stressful jobs. But we keep busy, and I think if you're going to be successful in diplomacy in any country, representing any country, it's about having a network. It's about understanding where you're living, understanding the vibes and what's ultimately going on in a country, so that you can best support your own country's interests, whether that's in trade or other areas. So, the best tip of that's get out, meet lots of people, and have fun as well. I'm not going to deny it. And Jeddah's a very, very hospitable city, no doubt about it.
Vibrant. And you, sir, further to your point about getting out and mixing with the locals, you've immersed yourself in this culture. You are a Muslim, and you visited the two holy sites of Mecca and Medina. Has that really helped you engage further with the culture, would you say?
Yeah, undoubtedly. Mecca's only an hour away. We have British nationals visiting, certainly before COVID, over 125,000 a year coming into the kingdom. So being able to spend time in Mecca and in Medina to understand the issues that pilgrims might face, to understand their journey, is hugely advantageous for our work. Obviously on a personal level, it's wonderful. I remember in 2019, I was able to spend time with pilgrims, British pilgrims, performing Hajj in Mina and Arafat, and talking to them, most of whom it was their first time they'd perform Hajj. So
you were there on the ground.
I was there on the ground with the flag,
fantastic.
and
it's fantastic.
Personally, it was wonderful to hear their stories. Professionally, I think it was just really important, showing that the UK government showing that it's on the ground, sharing those experiences, understanding the situation, and being able to help if need be.
Yeah, really are the right man for the job, Your Excellency. Honestly, it's refreshing to hear that. British mission or the British Consul is there in Hajj, is there with the people who are traveling from the UK and elsewhere, and just to have that kind of level of representation in the biggest Muslim event of the year is refreshing, honestly.
Well, it's genuinely an honor and a privilege, and certainly when we see such large numbers again before COVID. And who knows what the future looks like. But typically on a Hajj, you would have 25,000 British nationals amongst a sea of 2 million other pilgrims.
25,000 would come in for it.
Yeah.
Wow,
which
big
is
number.
One of the bigger groups of Western pilgrims coming into the kingdom.
It's a lot. I'm comparing it to like stadiums that I know, and 25,000 is a lot of people to try to ensure that are having a smooth experience, that are pretty much all on your watch, but not to put any pressure.
Well, I think if you compare the modern day Hajj with the experiences that people had in the past, it's a very different experience. In the past, the journey was an immense part of that overall experience. The modern Hajj is an aeroplane. You come into Jeddah, you go to Mecca, and it's a simpler thing, but nonetheless, the spiritual power and the experience that people have performing Hajj is the same, and it's wonderful to be able to share that.
Yeah. Has the route to becoming a diplomat in the modern day today any different to when you started your career?
I think in terms of the UK, and I started my career a long time ago.
Not too long.
Not too long, no. Perhaps has changed. I'm slightly unusual in that I left school at 18. I didn't go to university, and I joined the Foreign Office in London as a young guy, as a clerk doing paperwork, and have slowly worked my way up through the system. So I think certainly in that time, and we're talking late 80s, let's leave it there. I think it was perhaps a little bit easier. I think certainly in the UK, working in the Foreign Office is a very popular thing to do. So there's lots of applications, very high standard, and lots of great qualified people apply every year. So I think that probably just pushes up the level of difficulty and qualifications, etc. So perhaps it's changed, but I think ultimately the kind of people who enjoy diplomatic work are the same. You enjoy engaging, you enjoy meeting people, you're fascinated with the world, you probably have interests in different parts of the world, and you want to be able to contribute. And I think there's a great sense of public service that anybody working for government embraces, whether they know it or not, that serving the public one way or another is really what this is about. I think it's one of the things I enjoy.
It's fascinating to hear that you started at such a young age, bypassing university. Does that come due to a love for wanting to represent the country? Or let me phrase it this way. What would you say influenced you to want to pursue a career in diplomacy?
Well, I think bypassing university was mostly down to my very bad A-level results. So
it is the hardest exam anyone has ever had to take, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I told my parents at the time. I'm not sure they entirely bought it, but it certainly spurred me on. In that I'm from the north of England, and the idea of moving to London was in itself the big adventure. But the idea of then the Foreign Office was something to me pretty glamorous, and this idea of being paid to travel around the world was
sounds like a dream.
Yeah, absolutely, go for that. So yeah, when the opportunity came up, I grabbed it with both hands, and yeah, no regrets.
Never looked back.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you work in something that you're passionate about, you almost don't feel like you're working. It's something I'm figuring out for myself.
You're doing an amazing job, though.
Thank you, sir.
Doing an amazing job.
But did you feel that it was, wow, this is something that I'm very passionate about. I'm in the right place.
I mean, there's a great range of activities and that a diplomat will do overseas, depending on the country and the type of work that we do. But I have to be honest, I'm very fortunate being in Jeddah and the type of work that we do as a small consulate, and particularly when it's about if we're, for example, helping British companies, we'll spend a lot of time making introductions to local business families and big companies, or introducing them, for example, to some of the giga projects that are happening up the Red Sea coast. So, that's exciting. That's fun. And it's actually, we can see that we're making a difference, both in terms of the quality that the Saudi projects will have, but also in terms of, from our perspective, what's really important is helping these UK companies be successful in the market, which is terrific.
Do you see a lot of opportunities here in future for British companies to pitch, to work with fellow Saudi companies?
Oh, enormous. Absolutely enormous. I mean, obviously, there's a great history of trading relations between the UK and Saudi Arabia. But I think from where we are now, things can only grow and grow. And I think there's different reasons for that. And partly, certainly in terms of if you see how the kingdom is diversifying its economy, moving away from oil, opening up all these new sectors, whether it's tourism, whether it's creative based, whether it's sports, whether it's technology, healthcare. These are all areas actually where the UK is really good. And so there's a kind of a natural partnership, I think, that forms between what we offer and what the kingdom needs. So we're hugely positive. And I think on a macro level, we're looking to head towards a UK GCC free trade agreement being negotiated. And I think that will just allow things to go to the next level and really broaden out the whole range of trade that we hope can take place.
Saudi has really invested a lot in tourism. And, we hear about the resorts popping up left, right, and center. Do you foresee your Brit who loves his sunshine to one day want to come to Saudi Arabia for holiday?
Yes, and they're already coming. Obviously, the vast majority of Brits who are coming in at the moment will be religious visitors. But I think it's inevitable as the resorts open up. We're seeing, the developments so far in Al Ula, for example, which I think is a terrific winter destination. And as the hotel capacity increases and the services are developed, then I am sure you will see lots of Brits coming in to experience that. It's comparable, of course, to the sites in Jordan at Petra. So I don't see any reason why not. And I think the other sites as well. This is one of those hidden things about the kingdom. You've got an amazing diversity of climate and experience. We saw, I'm sure you did the pictures from the north the past few weeks, snow there. then you've got the Dakar going on at the moment with these guys, charging through the desert. And then in the south, you've got Solda, and you've got great sites
mountain
for
range,
adventure holidays as well. So no, for sure, I'm sure we will see more and more.
Lots to be excited about. Looking forward.
No, totally. I mean, it's in Jeddah we've had an amazing December. We had Formula One inaugural race.
I saw you there with your flag. You look like having a great time. Did you have fun?
I did. I loved it. It was I've never been to a Formula One race, so
that was your first time.
First time. And hey, it's in Jeddah. It's in our hometown. So and close to the consulate. Yeah. So we were thrilled to be able to attend. And wow, I mean, that's just an amazing example, actually, of the kingdom taking on a project. Okay, we're going to do F1 for the first time. Oh, and we're going to build a track. Oh, we'll build a marina while we're doing it. Okay, and we're going to do it in 8 months or something. Wow. But pulled it off.
Shocking.
It's
not shocking for us. It's shocking for anyone to put together that in 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
It was a sandpit. They built a marina, and they did the track. And just a lot of heat from media that it won't be ready. Well, it was ready, all right? And it was an amazing race. And I mentioned this in one of my previous episodes. I was talking to a Dutch guy, and he was like, it looks like this has been going on for 6 or 7 years. I'm like, honestly, how is it? He was like, 6 or 7 years. It doesn't look like it's your first race. It's flawless. Everything is where it needs to be. Everything's working. And bravo, Saudi. This is Dutchman's words. I was like, thank you. I felt good about myself.
You should.
I had something to do with it.
You should. No, I think it's, Saudi Arabia deserves an awful lot of credit for taking that on and delivering. I mean, Formula One, this is serious stuff. It has to work. High tech, high standards.
High profile.
Very high profile. We were talking about this, I think we were on stage together with Martin Whitaker, the CEO of Saudi Motorsport. On Sunday evening, we were saying, you're going to have 500 million people watching Jeddah. Yeah. Right. Suddenly,
no pressure, Jeddah.
No pressure, Jeddah. So that was amazing. But then at the same time, was it a week later, you had Red Sea Film Festival.
That's another story. That's another success story.
That's if Formula One hadn't been happening, Red Sea Film Festival would have been a headline-grabbing moment. And if you just take a step back, this is an international film festival. People coming around the world. Saudi films, international films, in Jeddah, in the kingdom. Wow. And what an amazing showcase. It says a lot about the nature of change in the kingdom, but also about, I think, importantly, the kind of the aspirations and desires of young Saudis to develop their careers, this sense of empowerment and creativity that's being encouraged. This matters.
And it gave them a platform. If you're a director or a producer or an actor or an actress, you can now pursue that. That was never the case. And there were some high-profile guests that came. Hilary Swank, if I pronounced that correctly, she was one of them. One of Bollywood's biggest actors. I saw Mohammed al-Turki. I think he went to the airport to collect him. He was that big of a guest. They pulled it off. This Mohammed al-Turki gentleman, incredible guy, really the right guy for the job, had him on the show. And he pulled it off. And this was our first Red Sea Film Festival. So it only begs the question, what's year 2, 10, 15 going to look like?
You've set a high bar.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, you have. Which is amazing to see. Before you came to Saudi, you went, you had a tour in Jordan, Iraq, Syria, Sudan, Ghana, and India. Not memorized, I haven't noted. and then China, which we'll get into. Before coming to Saudi, were there any apprehensions or stereotypes that you had in mind that surprised you upon arrival?
I think having spent a lot of time in the region and dealing with people from other Arab countries, you kind of see a stereotype about Saudis being created, which probably any country faces, but perhaps because of the history of the kingdom or its resources or its position or traditions, who knows? But a certain stereotype might be created. But actually, coming into the kingdom, and then perhaps this is, I think, one of the specifics about Jeddah, although friends in Riyadh will disagree, but that the depth and genuineness of hospitality is second to none. I mean, I lived in Damascus for a few years, and the Syrians are wonderful hosts, and of course in Amman as well. No doubt about it. Wonderful people. But when you arrive in Saudi Arabia, my experience amongst friends here in Jeddah, that they throw their arms around you, and there's a genuine desire to show off actually what's going on in the kingdom, and to reflect honestly from an individual's perspective what life is like and what they have to offer, and perhaps to push past some of the more superficial stereotypes that are out there. So, I mean, every country is complicated inherently, but I think it's only when you spend time in a country, and I'm sure this also goes, by the way, for Saudi diplomats working in London, who may have a particular opinion about the UK, but until they spend time living and working with Brits in the same way that we do here with Saudi nationals, that you actually get a truer and fuller picture. And especially now, given the pace and change in the kingdom over the past few years has been utterly remarkable.
Truly. A lot of different elements have accelerated due to COVID, which takes me into a point that I wanted to discuss with you. You were here when COVID started, when it all kicked off.
I've not left. Yeah, I've been here throughout.
So before and past. So you saw the whole thing unfold in Saudi.
Yeah.
What was your interpretation of how Ministry of Health and the country in general handled it?
Honestly, seriously good, for sure. I think right at the beginning, I mean, nobody's quite sure what they're dealing with, and every country is trying to figure out what's the right response. Saudi Arabia is taking decisions very quickly. And an announcement was made, for example, about curfew or restrictions, movement, and you're thinking, wow, is that too soon? Or is that getting ahead? But actually what was shown was that Saudi Arabia was ahead of the curve in the types of tough decisions that had to be taken. So I think, personally speaking, I've always had great confidence in the way the Saudi authorities have approached some of the tough decisions that have been taken. To manage it.
Yeah.
And I think the reaction from people in the kingdom has been really good as well. So, for example, use of masks, the way that applications have been used to manage risk, the uptake on vaccinations has been really positive. The kingdom clearly has done a very good job in managing an unprecedented situation.
To say the least, yeah, the unprecedented.
Sure.
Yeah, you touched on a point that I want to go back to, which is how people reacted to it, and how people followed the rules and regulate. Home at 6 o'clock, no cars on the street at 6 o'clock. Masks, no one goes anywhere without the mask. So that was very good to see that orders came, and we have never been told what to do to this degree ever, and everyone fell in line. Which was good to see, and perhaps one of the reasons why our death rates isn't that of the countries who have a similar population to Saudi, but with 10 times the death rates. And you can tell that when Ministry of Health would say, okay, this has to happen, nothing else matters. Not business, not entertainment, nothing else matters. And it was painful decisions, but money or souls. So that was a decision we had to make.
Well, every country, in a sense, is wrestling with the same equation about how to plot a way forward through that, and it's clearly it's not straightforward. But certainly, if you look about the big events that have taken place over the past few months, the kingdom has put itself in a position of being able to host large events, Formula One. Or the concerts in the Riyadh, for example, these have been huge events. But as we're seeing around the world, it's the kingdom at the moment. Cases are going up.
Now with this.
So that's the reality we're in. But no, I've got every confidence that the way the authorities will approach it will be to put public health right at the top of their priority.
You got all your vaccinations here?
Yes.
2, 3.
Yeah, boosted. Yep.
How did I heard the third one is a bit of a toughie.
Have you not had it yet?
No. So for the longest time, they said you need at least 6 months between the second and third. And then recently they said, no, okay, you can have it if it's within 2 months.
Yeah.
It just scares me a little bit because I was...
Get your booster, Mo.
Okay.
Get it now.
I will. That's my promise to you. I'll get it this weekend. The only reason, no, to be honest with you, I just heard that the third one is a little bit more aggressive than the first two. So you're going to be down for... I know, it's not an excuse. I shall book mine on Saturday and I will show you proof.
I will demand evidence of this next week.
You will receive it. Now I'll definitely have to go. Your Excellency, you did 3 years in China. China is a country that really is unique, I feel. Almost the new superpower of the world, And there are cities that are the population of Saudi that no one's ever heard of, with 20, 30 million people. What was your experience like being in Shanghai?
Yeah, I was blown away. There's, putting aside the politics and stuff, there's a huge energy in Shanghai, especially. Population of 25 million people. But it's young, it's vibrant, it's everyone's a businessman or businesswoman. Everyone loves their technology. Everyone's trying to figure out a new initiative, or everyone's an entrepreneur. It's staggering, really. So it's a good experience. I mean, for me, having spent most of my career in the Middle East or in Africa, actually to see something completely different. So, I mean, it's a bit of a cultural shockwave at the beginning, if I'm being honest. You don't speak the language. Everything feels a bit different. And it takes time just to figure it out. But we really loved it, and the kids had a great time.
Made some good friends while you were there?
For sure. Yeah, no, lots of good friends.
3 years is a long time.
Yeah, but it takes a year or so, I think, in any country, particularly one, if it's culturally different to what you're used to, just to find your bearings a bit and figure out your work routine, your living routine, and how you basically live your life. But no, I loved it. And I think, China's got some absolutely amazing sites to visit. It's staggering history.
Mm-hmm.
I loved pretty much every moment I was there in China.
So fond memories.
Yeah, fond memories. I mean, food side, it's more challenging sometimes, I have to say, particularly as a Muslim, when you're trying to avoid pork. That's not always straightforward. So I was mostly a vegetarian for 3 years.
I'm sure your energy levels were through the roof. I went vegan for a month and it just changed my life. It was fantastic. You became a Muslim, sir. How did that come about? Were you here? Were you living in the UK? How did you become a Muslim?
So I converted to Islam 25 years ago plus.
25 years.
When I was serving in Khartoum in Sudan. My wife is Sudanese. I mean, as background, I was raised a good Catholic boy, but like many, drifted away from faith in my teenage years. But being in the Middle East, and I think Sudan especially, in that there's I think people practice their faith in Sudan in a very pious way. And I think it's very apparent and it's very obvious and it's very impressive. And I think that for me, it was a kind of a religious reorientation, if you like. So I found myself back on a spiritual path I was very comfortable with, and remained on it ever since. So I count myself very fortunate.
And you managed to practice it in the rest of the countries that you went to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fortunate to spend a lot of time in the Middle East. So, praying in some of the wonderful mosques in Damascus and Aleppo, for example, mm-hmm. In Jordan as well, even in China. Despite the challenges, mm-hmm. There are some interesting mosques still to visit there and to pray. So, no, certainly, and Islam is a global religion. We see that here when the diversity of pilgrims coming in all the time. So, but ultimately, being in the kingdom, being able to perform Umrah in Mecca, to go and pray in Medina, is personally for me very, very special.
It's come full circle for you.
Indeed.
You reached the finish line.
Not quite yet.
As far as being a Muslim is concerned. If you weren't a diplomat, what do you think you'd be today?
Gosh, with my rubbish A-level results, I wonder. Actually, I was a musician as a kid.
No way. What instrument?
A trumpet.
Fantastic.
Because as I said, I'm from the north of England. And in the north of England, we have a lot of brass bands tradition. So I played from a very young age a cornet, which is like a short trumpet.
What town in the north? Let me see if I know it.
Small town, a seaside town actually, like Jeddah, but smaller. Maqim.
No chance.
It's, if you heard of Blackpool?
I did.
Okay, so it's an hour or so north of Blackpool.
And north as far as Newcastle?
That's on the other side.
Oh, so you're on the left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we're on the left.
Every Saudi knows Newcastle now.
You do now.
We know where it is.
Yeah.
Expect Saudi to fly direct soon, I think, to catch some games.
Big things ahead, I'm sure. Eventually. Yeah.
I'll segue back to that. But so life for you started there, and then you moved to London when your career took you there. I'd applied for a job in the Foreign Office, and I'd travel down to London for the interview, and amazingly they gave me a job. I moved south to London. I mean, if I hadn't have done that, I don't know. I worked in a bank for a few months, which was just terrible. Really, not an experience I enjoyed. Dealing with customers, I don't think is.
I wasn't even dealing with customers. I was in a back office counting checks or something. It was really dull.
Yeah.
I guess I'd have loved maybe to have done something with music, but I realised that it probably wasn't good enough. Lots of passion, but shorter on the talent.
I went to school in England, and what I really liked, which we didn't have in Saudi, is how everyone had to play an instrument, and which was refreshing. And these guys were very, very good. They take it very seriously. Music, not something I did so much. Rugby is what I played, and I was a lot more comfortable over there. But it was nice to see that you'd have to pick up an instrument, which is something that I want to pass on to my son. I want him to start taking piano lessons. I think it just activates a part of your mind that wouldn't be activated if you didn't play an instrument.
Oh, I think it's hugely empowering. I mean, I hated having to do my daily practice and my mum, telling me off for not doing it or something. But once you reach a certain point where the music you're producing doesn't sound awful, and you're playing in a group and bands and stuff, as I was doing, then you really start to love it. And it helps develop other things, I'm sure, intellectually. It's a positive. It does. And I think I was reading tonight on Arab News, they were saying about music schools opening up here in the kingdom. Yeah. So again, it's one of those good things that helps with the development of young people, which is a huge amount of positives.
Totally. It doesn't exist too much. I don't think it does. I mean, but it's good to see that that there's places like that are opening in Saudi. I think we need it. Newcastle. How did you feel about the pickup of that club, the glorious club of Newcastle? Newcastle.
Well, I'm a fan of Burnley Football Club. Burnley, obviously, a global footballing superpower.
It's a good team.
It is a great team.
It's the dark horse in the Premier League.
It's a great team, but we're having a bit of a difficult season. But we're above Newcastle, so all of this money that Newcastle's spending on new players, I'm not overly excited about that, because I'd be quite happy if Newcastle don't have too great a season. I want them to stay up. I want them to be successful, of course, but not at the expense of my club.
I don't think many non-Newcastle fans are happy with Newcastle right now. It's like, your neighbor who won the lottery. How does that help me, kind of thing?
I think that the kingdom's made a shrewd investment, but I think like a lot of investments, you've got to think long term.
Yeah.
And football it's not like the stock market. You can have great players and great stuff, and you still end up losing. But football's passion. There's an emotion to it. It's not like investing in in a factory or something. Where you can predict your rate of return or something. It's about getting people excited about football, and Newcastle's got such a massive tradition, and passionate fan base. I think it'd be a terrific ride, but it'd be a roller coaster, be ups and downs.
It'll take time. I think it's a harder mission than what Abu Dhabi had to face with City. I think Newcastle are in a bigger hole, so the challenges will be bigger. But I love that it's a one-club city. I love how the fan base are all about Newcastle. Great fans. They fill up stadiums even if they're 20th or in Division 1 or Championship as it's called. The stadium is fantastic. The city is really nice. And I think the price was as well.
Well, it's investing in football. It takes time and it takes a lot of money. I don't know how much has been invested in Manchester City over the years.
A little less than that. It was 200 and change.
I don't know how much
that was 10 years ago.
How much they've spent on their players and things.
Yeah, no, that's add a couple more zeros.
A lot of money. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
But it's football in England especially. It's such an amazing global brand. It's loved all over the world.
It's true.
Because it's great football.
I can't watch any other league.
No, it's terrific. I mean, and it's great quality and it's international and there's players from all over the globe. But also, I think people sense the passion and the emotion around it.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, we're delighted. There's investment in the UK football from around the world.
Yeah.
So it's great to have Saudi on board as well.
I just love how the closest seat to the pitch is about 2 meters, if that. You don't get that kind of intimacy in other stadiums. In Saudi, for the longest time, there'd be an Olympic running track. Now the one in Jeddah finally doesn't have that. So we're close to the players. And in England, it's even closer. I went to Craven Cottage in Fulham.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I can hear the guy whispering if he's about to take a corner. So I think the access and the intimacy you have with, your heroes on the field gives you something that other stadiums around the world don't.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, certainly the older grounds, I'll mention Burnley Football Club again, just to give them a plug.
Yeah.
Formed in the 1880s. I mean,
Wow.
There's a tradition and history with these clubs that's connected to the towns, and part of the fabric of the society. So it matters. But in Saudi Arabia, of course, Jeddah, you've got some passionate football fans.
My goodness.
So
Etihad.
Serious fans.
But I mean, Etihad is known throughout Saudi to have the best fan base.
Does this explain the colours on your
It's been asked. It's been asked before. I know this is going to upset my Hilali fans, but between Hilal and Etihad, you've got two. If you're playing King's Cup final and it's Etihad versus Hilal, which is a dream matchup for the ratings, if you will, if it was the US, you're talking an atmosphere that is, better than a Classico or the Manchester Derby. Like, it's really incredible. Yeah. And if we are fortunate enough to have that matchup, I beg that you attend and see what it's like.
Love to.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Love to.
Your Excellency, what failure or perceived failure has helped you propel your career to where you are today, would you say?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, obviously, my failure at A-levels was my primary driver.
I'm so sorry that you have to keep going back.
You keep going back to that, don't you? Why? Tell us about when you failed. Oh, okay. Yes,
God.
My D at A-level physics or whatever.
Tough subject.
I think, the wise business people talk about, you need your failures to grow, don't you? So I suppose in our profession, it's like many jobs, it's typically career interviews. It's jobs you apply for. And you think, yeah, I'm the best candidate for this. I'm going to go forward, and then slap. No, you don't. And I think those are always good. And I think there's they're horrible at the time, but when you look back, and I think there's a culture of feedback that we maybe didn't have in the past. So you get the email saying, thank you for your application. However, you're a very good candidate.
Yeah, it's always that however that bothered me.
Everything before the but, isn't it? Yeah. That you weren't successful, but then you get the feedback, and I've done this on jobs that I've failed miserably to land, and you think, oh wow, okay, really, I come across like this, or I talked about this issue and I didn't talk about that. So I think as long as you keep an open mind and don't take it too personally, which is difficult for the first 10 minutes when you've not got something, but you take a deep breath and you figure it out, and you try and take your lessons from that and move forward. But But yeah, it's an ongoing process, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where do you get your inspiration from?
Wow. Well, we've got 5 kids. So that means there's... Mashallah. So yeah, that means there's no shortage of suggestions or ideas or opinions. Some of which are good, some of which are too expensive, some of which aren't going to happen. So I think, yeah, sure, a lot comes from that, just because running around for all these years, and our kids span the age of 9 through to 24. So,
and all live with you in Jeddah?
The 2 youngest are in Jeddah,
okay.
and the 3 are in the UK. So, running around after kids for 20 odd years for both of us has, it makes you resilient, I think. So I think from that we draw some inspiration. But I think that there's something very diplomatic life. It's a bit like military life in the sense of every 3 or 4 years you move on to a different location, a different job, and a different venue, a different set of friends, which is tiring. And it's complicated sometimes, particularly around kids and schooling and things like that, not straightforward. But it does give you a chance to renew a little bit. So to take stock, to start again, to press reset. And that's, I think, if you're open and you've got the energy levels, that can keep you going. I think that explains why I've still got a full head of hair, but it's going to be graying on the sides.
It's all there, I can assure you. You have been on the move for 25 years. I mean, mashallah, I don't know how you do it. It shows how adaptable you are, which is very impressive. That inspires me. Do you see yourself wanting to settle down and live in Saudi post-retirement? Has that ever crossed your mind, or do you miss home?
For sure, miss home. You miss family. And COVID's complicated that so much for everybody, hasn't it? But yeah, I mean, it's retirement. I think I just put that in. I'm in denial somewhere about these issues. But I mean, Saudi is one of those places that I can absolutely imagine myself spending a lot of time after I finish work. And not just because it's a beautiful country, but because of the warmth and friendliness of the people, which is hugely genuine, and really touching. So yeah, absolutely, can see myself coming back here a lot. Inshallah.
Yeah, I'd love to have you. You seem very happy here. What's something you feel that everyone should experience once in their life? I know they say, try something new every day, do one thing every day that scares you, but is there something that you feel everyone should experience? Come to Jeddah.
Yes, exactly. Jeddah khair.
Jeddah khair. Yeah, Jeddah is different.
It's probably a cliche, but cliches are true, aren't they? So, but the whole travel issue, I think it's empowering. I have this debate with my kids because, I spent from being born till I was 18 living in the same small town. So a very narrow view of the world. And this is before the internet, and we had 3 television channels, and we got very excited when a 4th appeared. So you didn't actually understand what a lot was going on in the world. And I explained when my kids are complaining about moving around so much. And you do feel guilty moving around every 3 or 4 years, for sure. But actually what they've experienced is a completely different journey to what I experienced. And they're far more rounded and knowledgeable and probably tolerant and familiar with the other and understanding and different perspective, which is really powerful. And I think, if you like, the recent history of Saudi Arabia, and by recent I'm talking about the past 20 years or so, where you've got this young population that's been plugged online through YouTube or other means, very high level of social media usage here. So people are actually hugely knowledgeable about the world, but actually going and experiencing it and talking to people, learning other languages, understanding why something happens in that country, which on the face of it might seem strange, broadens the mind.
Yeah.
So travel broadens the mind, no doubt about it. Got to do it.
Great suggestion, honestly. And it gives you tolerance as well to people, to cultures, understanding on what these people are about, what are their beliefs, what are their ethics, their religion. I've been putting off going to India for the longest time, but now I want to go explore. I want to understand, how that country works. I want to visit the Taj Mahal. I want to get out there on the road, backpack, train, whatever it takes, maybe when COVID subsides a little bit. But that's something 5 years ago that I was like, nope, no way.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of it. I think as you get older, you want your comforts. So you want the AC, you want the fridge, you want to have it, you want to experience everything, but you want a bit of comfort with it as well. One of my first postings was in India. And I was in 3 years in Delhi, and I loved it. I think it's one of those countries you just have to experience because of its diversity and color and noise and food, and it's just a wonderful place. Absolutely.
From all the countries before Saudi, which one do you miss the most, or which one jumps off the page?
I miss Damascus. Because we had a very happy 3 years in Syria. Whether again, wonderful people, amazing culture, the history, the terrific food, and everything else. So and it's greatly missed not being able to get back there. But each place you go to has pros and cons. There's pluses and minuses. But that's good. I think when you put that all together, then it's from that you learn your life's experiences, and you look back and you think, wow, that was terrific, even if it wasn't, even if there was problems or difficulties arising sometimes. But no, Syria definitely a special place in that.
Yeah. It's on the map. Damascus was like Beirut. A lot of people go visit. It has culture. It has attractions. I missed out, and I'd love the opportunity to go and visit. And inshallah, things go back to normal there, and peace is instilled in that country.
Inshallah.
Ya Rab. What's your biggest fear?
Biggest fear. Oh, it's. I think we've got degrees, haven't we?
Yeah.
Degrees of fear. It's whenever we go on Twitter and we send some message out, either in broken English or in broken Arabic, and then
I heard your Arabic. It's not bad. It's better than you think it is, honestly.
Survival, I think, is the phrase. But but typically, as soon as you press send on something, whatever it is, and you get okay, yeah, you got it. How do I delete that? How do I get it right? No, I think you're a father, and it's typically about your kids, isn't it? About as a parent, you get things right, you get things wrong, because we're human and that's life. And you're just trying to minimize the stuff you get wrong as a parent, and try and maximize the good stuff. And I suppose the nag at the back of your mind is, have I got that right? Did I get that right? No, I got that wrong, and my kids have told me I've got it wrong. So okay, try and learn.
Yeah. Your Excellency, is there something you'd wish to accomplish before retirement? Perhaps an ownership stake at Burnley Football Club?
Yes, actually, been my new goal to persuade friends in Saudi Arabia they should be investing in Burnley Football Club, but I fear that may not be possible.
Probably not.
But I'll give it a go. So, yeah, having spent so long in the Middle East, I should definitely improve my Arabic. So that's definitely one of those things that's it's been on my to-do list for feels like 25 years.
Does Quran help you reading? Does that help strengthen?
I think for foreigners learning Arabic, it's always challenging.
Tough language.
I tell you what, I know, speaking to friends who have been through the Arabic training that we provide in the Foreign Office. It's that we are taught Fusha, so we speak lovely Arabic, and we can do television interviews, and we can we can talk about very profound things. But then you go to the shops and you're trying to have a casual conversation, and that's a different set of vocabulary. It's Amir, it's a different language almost. So I think for foreigners learning Arabic, there's always that question about how they develop both.
Yep.
And it's a struggle. I think as Muslims with the Quran, then of course, I mean, we read the Quran and for prayer, of course. But but Arabic is such a wonderfully rich, diverse language that it's almost never ending as a foreigner when you're learning it.
Yeah.
So, but that's one of the terrific things about it. I mean, because I think it's a language that's connected to the soul of the people. It's woven into the fabric of the whole society, whether it's family, whether it's faith, and how people think. So you're not just learning a language, you're actually learning something more profound. So that's why it's great fun, but yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah, it is. Writing is the hardest. It's the least I do. And when I write, I realize how far behind I am. Advice to your 30-year-old self, if you manage to have that conversation with him.
Oh, probably lay off the Mars bars. Just
go Twix instead.
Yeah, skip the desserts. Yeah, this is one of the perils of being a diplomat. They say diplomats are good at two things: talking and eating. It's I mean, it's when I look back, where was I when I was 30? The great hospitality that I undoubtedly enjoyed in many countries. I remember in Jordan, we'd go out to meet families in different cities, Tafile, Ma'an, Karakum places, and you would be hosted wonderfully with huge plates of mansaf.
God, I love that.
Which is just wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, it's delightful, but you pay a price.
You do.
You pay a price. Yeah. So
it's a good meal to have before fasting the next day.
Yes.
You probably won't be hungry by the time sunset comes around.
It's staggering. It's wonderful. And obviously in Saudi you've got a terrific range of food as well.
Endless,
so it's too good. So yeah, for years I've tucked in. So I know looking at some of my photos, it's you can tell when I've been going through a phase of just enjoying the food too much. Oh, he's wearing those suits again because he has to. And then actually it's one of the during COVID. Obviously there wasn't much going out, just mostly staying at home. So I managed to cut out a whole range of heavy dinners for a year. So I lost weight. So this was my major achievement.
I would imagine you're invited to a place probably 5 days a week, and everyone wants to offer you as much as they can, and then you pay the price for it.
So as a diplomat, I'm losing sympathy already with the audience, but yeah, it's true. You get a lot of that, and I've got if there's great food, and this is Jeddah, there's always great food.
Yeah,
and I've got zero willpower.
Yeah, we all do. I mean, the one comment that I have on that is that we offer a bit too much. There's always rice for 10 people if there's 3 people eating, and I just I hope it doesn't go to waste. But we have this thing in our culture where ikram al-dayf is to give your guest as much as you can, and yes, you and I have both been the beneficiary of that. You maybe to a bigger degree. But good to see that there was a silver lining in COVID, that you bought yourself some new suits.
I got myself some new suits. Yeah, that's about it.
I know you have a busy schedule. I don't want to keep you here for much longer. If you could have the attention of the world for 30 seconds on a hypothetical billboard, is there a message that you would like to put out? I mean, you are a globetrotter. MashaAllah alayk. You've been to many, many countries. And you got to mix with many, many different cultures. Is there a message that you would like to send to the world, something that you feel that from all your travels and everything that you've been through, this would be like the common message you would like to send out to everyone?
Wow, that's a big question, Mo, isn't it?
You can take your time.
I'm reaching for the profound now. No, I'd go back to trusted cliches and probably look for inspiration with the Beatles and go for something like "All You Need Is Love."
John Lennon.
Can't go wrong.
That's true. That would solve love and kindness. I've said it before. It'll solve many of our problems.
Back to basics.
Yeah, back to basics.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I've kept you here for longer than I wanted. I do apologize for that. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to chat to you and taking time out of your busy schedule. Is there anything you would like to say before we get out of your hair, as they say?
No, Mo, thank you so much for the kind invitation to join you. It's been a lot of fun. And best wishes for future episodes in the podcast. We'll all be listening.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to me, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.